There's a lot of books here, friends. A lot of books. This party started. So I've talked about our local used bookstore before on this channel. It's my absolute favorite place, and they always have some really good sales going on. So for the last couple of weekends, they were having like a big warehouse sale, and you could get lots of books for super cheap. Like all of the hardbacks in the sale were only $3, most paperbacks were $2, and then if it was like a mass market paperback, it was only $1. Then this weekend, you could go and fill up like a huge brown paper bag and get everything in it for $3. And I'm really excited about several of the books that are in this, really a lot of the books that are in it. So I wanted to share that with you guys today. I know that it can be a bit much with some of the booktube stuff, and people talk about consumerism and things like that. That's why we usually try to buy things used. I honestly don't even remember the last time that I paid full price for a book. So these were things that people were getting rid of anyway, and now they get to have a second life here in this home and become part of our growing library. They say that to have like an official like home library, you really need to have around 1,000 books. And so that's kind of the goal that I'm working towards. Not just that I want any type of book, you know, I want them to be 1,000 good books. So let's check out some of the ones that will be joining the collection. So first up, this is a book that I found just today that looked interesting to me. I am wanting to write more. I've been really working on specifically this one book series that I would really like eventually to publish. It's going to be a trilogy. I don't know. We'll see if it actually happens or not, but it's definitely a dream of mine. So anyways, I saw this book called Writers, Their Lives and Works, and thought that it would just be interesting. It just kind of covers the lives of different writers throughout history. Some of them in here I was really excited about learning more about. Ernest Hemingway was in here, F. Scott Fitzgerald, all sorts of writers that have really inspired me. I know that Jane Austen is somewhere in here, the Bronte sisters, Emily Dickinson. So I was just really excited about this book and hearing about the different writers who have really impacted history, learning more about their lives. So this one is getting added to the collection. One of the books that was not included in the sale, but that I'm really excited about. So my husband came back one day from running errands and just kind of surprised me by bringing me this book. And I was so excited because I've been wanting a copy forever anyways. And this is like a really nice copy. So he brought me Les Mis by Victor Hugo. I absolutely love the musical version of this that had like Anne Hathaway in it. It was brilliant and gorgeous. This one has the gold edges on it. I feel like it's a newer edition. It's not a super old book, but it's still just so pretty, and it's got the hardback on it and some really pretty work there on the inside. So I am just super excited about this one. It definitely is not going to be on this year's TBR just because I've already got so much that I want to read this year, but next year for sure. Which, by the way, I feel like you guys haven't actually seen my main shelves like here in my bedroom because normally I'm recording downstairs, but this is in our room here, and these shelves right here are the ones that house most of the books that are on my TBR or different ones that I have finished. Sometimes the ones that I'm working on, but I have all of my fall TBR stuff downstairs right now. The ones on like this shelf right here are the ones that are going to be up next. All right, next on the list, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I've heard great things about this one, but have never read it myself. They have, I think, the entire series at our used bookstore. So I found this one first, and then at the start of the warehouse sale, I found the second one here, Hollow City. And they also have two more that are in the collection there as well, not in the warehouse sale, just in the normal part of the store. But still, if I like it, then at least I know that I can go back and buy those. Next on the list is another one that I have never read before. This one was turned into a movie. It's A Beautiful Mind. I know that is based on someone in West Virginia, and we live in West Virginia. And so I thought that that might be fun to pick up. I've never even seen the movie before, so I just barely know what this is about. But it's a really popular book and it seemed like a good one to go ahead and add to the collection and to eventually read it. The next one I am so excited about, and that is All the Light We Cannot See. I know that this one gets a lot of like mixed reviews. I'm hoping that I'm going to be someone who absolutely loves it. I haven't watched the movie. I think it's a movie, maybe a series. I don't know. I haven't watched it on Netflix because I feel like I would rather experience the book first. So I've seen some people saying that this is like toward the top of their list, like one of their favorite books. And then I've heard other people saying that it just really fell flat for them, or that certain parts dragged and that they didn't really enjoy it. I'm really, really hoping that I'll be one of the ones who likes it, but we shall see. It's set during the time of World War II. All of the chapters look super short, and when it's like that, it's usually pretty easy for me to get through. I like it when they're broken up like that. I don't know, it just gives me incentive to like, oh yeah, I can totally read the next one and the next one and the next one. So I'm hoping that when I'm able to pick it up, it's going to be a quick read. I would like to include this one in this year's TBR. I usually read a pretty good bit during the month of December. We take a little trip to an off-grid camp for like a week. There's always lots of reading that happens during that time, so maybe I'll be able to knock it out during that trip, I hope. Next up on the list, while we were actually at a trip to a different town in our state, there was a thrift store there, and they had The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde there, and other stories by Robert Louis Stevenson. So we went ahead and picked this one up. I was super excited about it. At the same time, we also found most of the Harry Potter series other than the 6th and the 7th. So far, we didn't actually own our own copies of Harry Potter. We just borrowed them from the library. Other than one of my daughters, she had a couple of the books. So anyways, we were able to get those too. I just have them like up on the very top where you can't see of my bookshelf up there, and I wasn't gonna drag them down at this moment, but I was really happy that I got those. And so because of that, instead of waiting until next year, my husband agreed to go ahead and start reading them with me now. So we're about halfway through the first one, and this is his first time reading Harry Potter. He doesn't have any experience with the books whatsoever, so he's been enjoying it. It's been fun. What do I want to pull out next? All right, next up, I have never even heard of this author before, but there was this little book called Quiet Places, Warm Thoughts, and it's a collection of stories and poems by Jeanette Oke. Again, I've never heard of her before. However, it just seemed like a nice, cozy little read. I really like poetry. I like short stories. And so this felt like something that would be nice in the cold months that are coming, to kind of just cuddle up with some tea or some coffee and a blanket and read some cozy little stories or poems. The next one, so my husband actually picked this one up today, and it was just absolutely gorgeous, and so I decided to go ahead and grab it. It is by Lisa Isato, I think is how you say her name, and it's called All the Colors of Life. So it says, Lisa Isato has established herself as one of Norway's most celebrated illustrators. Throughout her career, she's been a magazine illustrator and written and illustrated 6 of her own children's books. Lisa's books have been translated into 40 languages, and her artwork can be found in homes all over the world. So this was originally in Norwegian, and then it was translated by, I think it says Olivia Lasky. But the book just looked absolutely gorgeous. There's just little snippets of words on each page. I haven't looked through all of it yet, so I'm not really sure everything that's in here, but it just looked so pretty, so we decided to go ahead and grab it. Oh my, that is... There's potentially actually some risque illustrations in there now that I'm actually flipping through, but it still looks like an interesting and very beautiful book. So next up on the list is the book Foster Dade Explores the Cosmos. This was another one that was just found at our local used bookstore, and the inside cover just sounded compelling, and so I thought that I would give it a try. I'm not sure when I'm actually going to get to read this one, just because again I have so many that are pretty high up on my TBR, so this one might take a while for me to get to, but I do hope that I'm eventually able to read it. It's set in 2008, which, you know, what a time to be alive. I was in high school during that time, and it seems like in this story we're kind of working with whoever the narrator is to try to piece together the events of fostered Dade's life. He was at a certain school, he was expelled, but there are certain things that he leaves behind. And so this person is working to kind of understand Foster's life and different events that happened. And so I don't know, we will see what it's like eventually, hopefully. So next, this is one that I picked up actually today in like the stuff a bag for $3 sale. It's by John Banville and it's called The Sea. It's a very short little book here, so it won't take a whole lot to get through it. And it just sounded like a really interesting book. I also like ones where it feels like nature is really pulled in and that the setting is an important part of the story. It says here on the back, in this luminous new novel about love, loss, and the unpredictable power of memory, John Banville introduces us to Max Morden, a middle-aged Irishman who's gone back to the seaside town where he spent his summer holidays as a child to cope with the recent loss of his wife. It's also a return to the place where he met the Graces, the well-heeled family with whom he experienced the strange suddenness of both love and death for the first time. What Max comes to understand about the past and about its indelible effects on him is at the center of this gorgeously written novel. It just seemed like something that I would enjoy, so I picked that one up today. Next, okay, so I actually had this one in my hand at a different time at our bookstore. I put it down and decided, oh, maybe another day. Like I just had other books in my arms already, and so I was gonna hold off on this one. Well, when I got back the next time, it had already been sold and I'd been hearing rave reviews about it, so I was super sad, but thankfully I was able to get it. It's The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This one sounds very interesting. I know lots of people love it. I'm probably gonna read this one towards the beginning of next year. Okay, so this next one is American Negro poetry. Hey, kitty. I really enjoy poetry in general. I was honestly hoping that the poems of Phillis Wheatley would be in this book because she is one of my favorite poets. I really enjoyed learning about her with one of my sons and reading some of her work. I don't think that any of her poems are in here. However, I did see some other names that I recognized on here, like Paul Laurence Dunbar, for example. So anyways, I was just excited to get more poetry, and some of it written by fellow African-Americans throughout history. This next one was another one that my husband just randomly brought home for me, and it is called The Far Field. It's set in India, and he knows that I'm trying to read different books from different cultures. I actually have not even read the inside of this yet. He just kind of brought it to me and said, hey, I think that you would like this. But yeah, we'll see. I'll probably read this one next year as well. If anybody has any experience with this book, let me know. Oh my gosh, there's so many more books. All right, this next one I found at the warehouse sale last time too. So we paid $3 for this one. It's another one from the Circle series by Ted Dekker. This one actually takes place, I think, previously to the one that I already read. So black is the first one in the series, but green says that it's book 0. So it technically comes before, but I have since looked up a list of what order to read these in. I thought this was like just a trilogy with like maybe this one before, and I've seen ones called Beyond the Circle, so I thought maybe those were just like right after or something. So tops, I was looking at like 6 books, I thought. I was wrong. There's a lot of books in this series, and actually another one that I picked up that I didn't even know had anything to do with the Circle series called Emmanuel's Veins. It's actually kind of tied in and is in the same like universe, it seems like, so it has tie-ins with the Circle. So the list that's like the order of how to read these is absolutely huge. I know that I need Red next, but then after that, there's like a lot of them that I would have to read before I actually get to this. I didn't realize when I picked it up, and at least I already have it, and I only had to pay $3 for it. So it's here whenever I get to it, but it might be a really long time. Another one that I picked up at the warehouse sale last time was What's Eating Gilbert Grape. I just recognized the name as one that is very popular and decided to go ahead and pick it up. I truly don't know much about it though, so I am interested whenever I get around to it to figure out what is in fact eating Gilbert Grape. Who knows? Okay, so the next one on the list is by Min Jin Lee, who my husband and I have heard really good things about. So when he saw this, he thought that I would like this one as well. Again, it's going to be one that's set in a completely different culture than our own, and so I was really excited about it. It's a National Book Award finalist and a New York Times bestseller. So the back says, history is seldom kind. 4 generations of a poor, proud immigrant family fight to control their destinies, exiled from a homeland they never knew. In the early 1900s, teenage Sunja, the adored daughter of a crippled fisherman, falls for a wealthy stranger at the seashore near her home in Korea. He promises her the world, but when she discovers she's pregnant and that her lover is married, she refuses to be bought. Instead, she accepts an offer of marriage from a gentle, sickly minister passing through on his way to Japan. But her decision to abandon her home and to reject her son's powerful father sets off a dramatic saga that will echo down through the generations. I am really excited about this one. I definitely want to bump it up in the TBR as much as I possibly can. It just sounds very interesting, and again, we know that this person is a wonderful writer, lots of rave reviews on several things that they've written, so I'm excited about this one. Okay, so the next one, this is one that I found today that I've actually already read before when I was a teenager. It's called A Great and Terrible Beauty. This is one that one of my absolute best friends in high school introduced me to. We were like sisters, basically. And then we started kind of writing our own book together. Like we would write notes back and forth that was set in a similar universe type of setting as this book. So we were writing kind of in the style of this book, but writing our own stories like we were the characters in the story. It was a lot of fun. I just have really good memories of reading this book, and when I saw it today I was really excited. So it definitely got put in the bag and is part of the collection now. The next one is called Mala's Cat. This one seemed to have really good reviews on Goodreads. It's another one that is set during World War II, during the whole occupation of the Nazis. So this follows a young girl named Mala. It says, at the age of 12, as the German invasion begins, her beloved village becomes a ghetto, and her family and friends are reduced to starvation. She takes matters into her own hands and bravely removes her yellow star, sneaking out to the surrounding villages to barter for food. It's on her way back one day that she sees her loved ones rounded up for deportation and receives a smuggled letter from her sister warning her to stay away. In order to survive, she walks away from everything she holds dear to live by herself in the forest. Remarkably, she's followed by a stray cat who stays with her and seems to come to her rescue time and again. So we have cats. We love cats. I also enjoy the stories that are set during World War II, and so this seemed like a really good one to pick up as well. I would also like to add it to next year's TBR. We'll see, because as I keep saying this, I realize that I still have a good bit of books back there on my TBR for this year that might have to roll over to next year. And I have lots of ones that I'm wanting to read next year as well. You know, and there's only so many days in the year, so we'll see. I might not be able to read all of these next year, but I am getting faster with reading, so who knows, maybe. All right, next up is another of Kristin Hannah's books. So I have a few of Kristin Hannah's books. I've heard really great things about her as a writer. I haven't actually read any of them yet. And so again, these were ones that I was hoping to get to all of them next year. So this one is called The Nightingale, and it's also set during World War II. So maybe we might have to break up some of the World War II ones. Who knows? Maybe I can even get to one of them at the end of this year, so then I can do like a couple of them next year. I don't know. So it says, The Nightingale tells the stories of two sisters separated by years and experienced by ideals, passion, and circumstance, each embarking on her own dangerous path toward survival, love, and freedom in German-occupied, war-torn France. A heartbreakingly beautiful novel that celebrates the resilience of the human spirit and the durability of women. I love that this one is set in France. That does kind of set it apart from some of the other World War II fictions that I have picked up. I really love all of French culture. I took 4 years of French when I was in high school, so I love all things French. When I was younger, I actually wanted to live in France for 2 years of my life. That didn't end up happening, clearly. So I was excited that this one is actually set in France. It also says on here, soon to be a major motion picture. So I don't know if that has happened already, or if this is like a fairly recent printing of this book and if it will be coming out soon. I don't know, but that might kind of be fun, like reading it before the movie comes out, if that is still possible. I don't know, I'll have to look that up. Nightingale movie. Okay, yeah, so it says that it will be happening by the end of 2024 or 2025. There's no official release date for it yet. So that is exciting because I could read the book then before the movie comes out. That one might have to get moved up, and maybe I'll read it in the winter after I'm done with my fall TBR. I'm gonna have to go through the rest of these kind of faster, or this is gonna be the longest video I've ever made. Next one up is Rules for Visiting. This person realizes that maybe she's not been the greatest friend, and so she seeks to figure out what loyal friendship actually looks like and goes and reconnects with some old friends. So I thought that this one could be kind of fun. I'm definitely more of an introverted person. I'm more of like a nose in the book person, writing at my laptop, listening to music by myself type of person, instead of one that is like super outgoing. And so anything that's kind of like taking a closer look at friendship and what it means to be a good friend, I kind of find interesting. And so I decided to go ahead and grab this one today. The next one that I am excited about is Little Fires Everywhere. Of course, it has been made into a Hulu original series. I have not watched it at all, so I have no expectations for what this is going to be like, but it sounded super interesting, so I grabbed it. The next one is The Burning Girl by Claire Messud. I can't say names. This one centers around two friends, and then their paths kind of diverge, and one of them takes sort of a more dangerous path. And so we are watching as all of this happens. It sounded like an interesting read. It's a very short read, and so I grabbed it. This next one, Icy Sparks, was at one point part of Oprah's book club. So, you know, that might be kind of interesting. The thing that interested me the most with this one is, again, it's set in Appalachia, and I live here in West Virginia. While I'm also grabbing all of these books about other cultures, I also would like books about my own culture, and so that's why I decided to do this one. Next, I have seen several Nicholas Sparks movies, but I have never read any Nicholas Sparks books, and so I grabbed Safe Haven. It's one of the only ones that I haven't actually watched a movie that has come out for it. I don't know how high up it'll be in my TBR, but it is one that I want to eventually read. This next one I feel like is controversial about whether it's actually a good book or not a good book. So I'm gonna just try it out for myself and see. It's Things We Never Got Over. I know it's a whole series. I saw this at the warehouse sale last time, so I paid literally $2 for this when normally it would be $19. Some people say this is super fun. Some people say that Lucy Score's writing is absolutely terrible. So I will weigh in whenever I'm able to read this and kind of dissect it and see what I think about it. Next up, since I liked Ted Decker's book Black, my husband also said that I might like Frank Peretti. We do have a couple of Frank Peretti's books already here at the house, but we saw this one today, and so I just added it to one of the bags. It's called Piercing the Darkness. I have no idea what it's about. My husband has read it before, and he said that it's really good. So we'll see. Okay, so this next one, I kind of just grabbed this as we were getting ready to walk out of the warehouse sale and threw it into the bag. It's another like really short one, will not take a super long time to read at all, and it's called Spider. So it says Spider is gaunt, threadbare, unnerved by everything from his landlady to the smell of gas. He tells us his story in a storm of beautiful language that slowly reveals itself as a fiendishly layered construction of truth and illusion. With echoes of Beckett, Poe, and Paul Bowles, Spider is a tale of horror and madness, storytelling and skepticism, a novel whose dizzying style lays bare the deepest layers of subconscious terror. So that sounded incredible and super interesting. I don't know what it's going to be like, but I'm kind of really excited about this, and honestly, if I get through some of my other fall reads fairly quickly, then I might go ahead and tack this one on, because this feels like a book that you should read in the fall. Otherwise, I might wait until next year at fall time. Next up, I grabbed Solito. This was also one of the ones from today's warehouse sale. This one seemed very poignant for the time that we live in. This is his own personal memoir, and we are following him as a child as he immigrates from, I think, El Salvador. Yes, from El Salvador to the United States. Just to be able to kind of like take a peek behind the curtain and see what someone else's life and their experiences are like, I think is always a great thing, to be able to put yourself into someone else's shoes and really understand where they're coming from. So this one seemed like a perfect book for the day in which we find ourselves right now. So I know I have a lot of World War II books. But the next one is another one. This one is a memoir though. So it's called All But My Life by Gerda Weissman Klein. A classic of Holocaust literature, Gerda Weissman Klein's celebrated memoir tells the moving story of a young woman's 3 frightful years as a slave laborer of the Nazis and her miraculous liberation. All But My Life stands as the ultimate lesson in humanity, hope, and friendship. So I like stories like this where you're actually hearing the memoir of someone who truly went through it. For example, Corrie ten Boom. I absolutely love her story, The Hiding Place. So I'm excited about this one. It's another one that is pretty short, so it shouldn't take a whole lot of time to read either. We still have so many books. Next up is Lori Moore's Birds of America. This one is a collection of short stories, which is something that I like. I like to just kind of be able to sit down and have a little tasting of something. But I've never read anything by Lori Moore before. It is a New York Times Book Review Best Book of the Year and a national bestseller. So hopefully these are some really great short stories. We'll see. Okay, the next one I really hedged on whether or not I was even going to pick it up. It is rated really well on Goodreads, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be super interested in the story. I don't know. And it's not like thick, but I mean, it's a decent size for not knowing if you really want to read it. So this isn't very high up on my TBR. It's called The Most Fun We Ever Had, and it centers around this couple that fell in love in the 1970s and the events that unfold from their life together afterwards. Someone obviously really liked it. They tabbed and annotated it when it was theirs, but we'll see how I feel about it. I don't know. All right, next on the list, I have never read Sophie's Choice before, and it was there at the warehouse sale today, so I decided to grab it. It's referenced in a lot of other things, especially just like in pop culture and things like that. A lot of times things are compared to Sophie's Choice, and I never actually know what they're talking about. So now I'll know after I get a chance to read it. Okay, the next one that I grabbed is full of magic, and it sounded just very interesting and different than other things that I've read. It's called Among Others. It was a winner of the Hugo and Nebula Awards. It's by Jo Walton. Raised by a half-mad mother who dabbled in magic, Morwenna Phelps found a refuge in 2 worlds. As a child growing up in Wales, she played among the spirits who made their homes in industrial ruins, but her mind found freedom in the science fiction novels that were her closest companions. When her mother tried to bend the spirits to dark ends, Maury was forced to confront her in a magical battle that left her crippled and her twin sister dead. Now having fled to a father whom she barely knew, Maury is sent to boarding school in England, a place all but devoid of true magic. There, she tempts fate by doing magic herself, in an attempt to find a circle of like-minded friends, but her magic attracts the attention of her broken and malign mother, pulling Morwenna toward a reckoning that will draw on everything she has learned in her years of engagement with stories and books. Next up, we've heard good things about this one. It's called As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow, and it centers around a Syrian girl. So again, this is something where I'm getting to peek into someone else's culture. And I believe, yes, I thought so, the author is also Syrian. She's also Canadian, and she lives in Switzerland. So I'm excited to hear what she has to say in As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. Next up, this is another one that was made into either a movie or a series. I'm not sure which. I want to say it's a movie now, but it's called Leave the World Behind. There are definitely some mixed reviews on the movie saying it's like very strange and in certain parts doesn't actually make sense and things like that. I'm hoping that the book will be better than what people say that the movie is, but we'll see. It's a very interesting premise and also kind of creepy. It's not one that I think that I want to do as like a fall read or anything like that, but it's nice and short, and hopefully I'll be able to get to it soon. 5 more books. So one of them is one that my husband picked up for me today. It's called A Castle in the Clouds. I thought this was going to be like some sort of romance, but from the inside cover, it actually seems like there might be sort of like a mystery thriller-ish possible twist in there as well. So we shall see about this one. Next, I truly don't know much about apartheid, and I feel kind of guilty about that fact. So I went ahead and picked up Hum If You Don't Know the Words. It sounds very interesting, set in the time of the apartheid in the 1970s in Johannesburg. So I'm excited to read that one. Next up, this one wasn't one that I was going to pick up and my husband encouraged me to. It's actually rated really well. It is Terry McMillan's Who Asked You? It is set, I think, in Los Angeles with this single mom. She's getting left with different kids that aren't even hers. We'll see what happens with it. I don't know. Another one that I've seen for months and I just didn't pick up yet, but I decided to go ahead and do it during the warehouse sale is A Good Neighbor. We'll see how that one goes. It's another one that's pretty short and shouldn't take a whole lot of time. And then last but not least is the one that I was super excited to see in the warehouse sale because everyone raves about this book. I will have to be in a good headspace to read it, I've heard, and that is A Little Life. It says, A Little Life follows 4 college classmates broke adrift and buoyed only by their friendship and ambition as they move to New York in search of fame and fortune. So I'm so excited about this. I actually wanted to go to New York whenever I was a teenager. I ended up getting married instead, starting a family, all of that. And of course, I don't regret the fact that I have my children whatsoever, but I am very interested in reading this and hearing what happens with these friends and their lives. That is all that I've got for today. So many different books, so little time to read them all. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. You all have a great day, happy reading, and I will catch you next time. Bye!